Hi, it's Kyle Coberline, a truck and RV sales consultant at Bluegrass International. Proud to say we're Central Kentucky's premier truck, bus, RV, and ID lease dealership. Here behind me I have a 2023 Renegade Verona LE 40 LRB. It's in the exterior color of Snowdrift, and we'll go around the coach and I'll talk about what it has to offer. We're here at the front of the coach, and of course this is a 23 model, and it was ordered with the new availability of the Cabover bunk. That's the first on the Verona LE for 2023. On the hood here you can see that this is our side view camera. The exterior paint, like I said, is Snowdrift. It's a full automotive paint process, clear coat. And then I've got the hood lifted up open here, and of course I've been in the trucking business for 16 years, and you know, a decade ago, most of the manufacturers started going to translucent reservoirs, which is awesome because it's easy to see, you know, that your washer fluid, how much, you know, you've got there, your coolant reservoir. So, I mean, it's easy to check all that stuff when you pop open the hood. Of course, one of the huge advantages to the Super C chassis is when you know, it's a tilt forward hood, conventional cab. So it's really easy to, you know, tilt your hood forward and check all your systems and fluid levels. And of course, if maintenance is required, it's a lot easier for the technicians or yourself to get in there and do any required maintenance. Of course, toolless air filter. That's your air dryer down there behind the bumper. That could be located a few different places, but that seems to be the common place when they're doing on these chassis for Renegade. I'm over here on the driver's side of the engine compartment, and you can see, of course, your fuel water separator, of course, filter. Super easy to see. Once again, if there's water in this, you would see it in the bottom of the glass here. Power steering fluid, you can see that as well. It's level. Engine oil check is easy to get to as well. It's right here. You know, one of the customers there's some jump start studs down there as well for negative and positive. But the batteries on these coaches are pretty easy to get to if you ever had a jump start scenario. A lot of customers are like, oh, you know, steam in the engine and making it look all sparkly. I personally don't recommend it. It's just, dust isn't going to hurt the motor. Getting in there with a pressure washer to keep it sparkly, I mean, you cause problems. I mean, it's just not, to me, it's just not worth it. I mean, you know, if it's dust, now if you get a bunch of mud in there, or if you want to use a hand rag and polish for whatever reason, but like pressure washers and stuff, not a good idea. Heavy duty degreasers is not a good idea. I mean, we've seen it ruin alternators. Of course, the last thing on the hood I'll point out, up here you've got a work light. There's a switch in the cab to turn that on. So if you're out here at nighttime and you want to be able to see, you've got a nice bright light that's located up there. So you've got a chrome bumper up front, you've got fog lights. Down here in the front, that is your radar system for your collision mitigation system, the Winegard. So the collision mitigation system uses radar with a camera feature, which you can see that camera up there in the windshield to basically detect objects in front of the vehicle, whether it be a vehicle or any other obstruction. The older systems that use just radar were a little, you know, there was some glitchy little issues. You heard stories about like low bridges and overpasses going down a hill that it would catch them. I mean, you don't hear those stories really that much anymore. You know, on the radar system on the front, I mean, you can have an issue as far as if you're in really bad weather and you get snow and ice buildup, it could disable your cruise control. I mean, it's just, you have to go out and knock the ice and snow off of it. But those systems do work really well. So that's for your collision mitigation, so for accident avoidance, and then of course for your adaptive cruise control, so that when you set your cruise control, the vehicle maintains a distance behind the vehicle in front of it. Of course, the LED headlights, your side view camera. Those are 22.5-inch aluminum wheels. That is a true commercial truck tire. Those are Bridgestone tires. We sell those on a lot of the vehicles that we do, whether it be motorhome or commercial truck. Of course, on the Verona LE, you're on a M2 Freightliner truck chassis. That means you have straddled 50-gallon fuel tanks. So you've got a 50-gallon tank on the passenger side and a 50-gallon tank on the driver's side. You do need to fill those tanks at the same time. You know, ideally going through like a commercial truck diesel aisle at a pile of Loves or something of that nature. There is a EquiFlow system that keeps those two tanks level, but it is not designed to transfer large amounts of fuel, so do fill both those tanks if at all possible. Of course, you've got your mirrors up here. You know, a lot of people are always nervous about driving a motorhome of this size, but you're basically driving a very large box. So when you're looking in the mirror from the driver's seat, like down the passenger side, I mean, you can see your backhand corner. So to me, I mean, I feel like my mom's Prius, when I borrow it from time to time, is harder to drive or see out of the back corner, just due to visibility. Whereas, you know, for these big truck mirrors, and of course this convex mirror down at the bottom, makes it really easy to see what's coming up beside you or what's at the back end of the coach. And of course you got a backup camera too that you can keep on to see what's coming up behind you as well. So on the Verona LE, of course you can see the awning that's out. It's a roof mounted awning that is armless. You've got dual pane windows on the exterior. Of course in the Verona LE you've got opposing slides, so you've got a slide on the camp side and on the utility side. Down here in the first bay on this coach, we've got our Aqua-Hot 450 system, which is your instant hot water and your heating system for the coach. That does have engine preheat as well and dual zone, so you can have a different temperature in the bedroom as in the living room. Engine preheat works so that the glycol actually, you got coolant that's coming from the engine that can circulate through the Aqua-Hot system, which it can be used to keep the coach warm inside. So that's a neat feature that you have on the Aqua-Hot 450. You know, we can talk a lot about Aqua-Hot systems, so you're always welcome to reach out to me and ask additional questions. Of course, on the Renegade, they built all their boxes in-house. They are steel, they're carpeted line, and you've got dual latch points that are adjustable, so that creates for a great door seal. One of the ways that you can attest to that, it is a brand new unit, it's only been driven from the factory, but you can still see a dirt line here, and that just shows that that gasket has a nice tight fit and you're not getting dirt or debris that's blowing up in between the doors into your bay. Of course on the LE you've got chrome accented handles. Those are an electric key fob for lock and unlock. You've got a storage bay here that's carpeted line. Those are your slide locks. Here's a storage bay that's right in front of the coach door. The 40 LRB is a midship door, so your door is more towards the rear of the coach than the front. And then Renegade does supply an air line which can go into the air fitting in the battery compartment, you know, if you need to inflate tires or any other small items. And you've got an outlet in that box as well. And now for a few years, Renegade has now been cutting the boxes underneath the rails to give you a little bit deeper storage. Underneath here in the slide, you can see the rack and pinion system. Back there, midship underneath the coach, there's an electric motor in the center. That's what the cylinder rod is connected to, and that's what pulls the coach in. There's a 3/4 inch socket on the back of that. It can manually be cranked in. I would recommend using something like a gear wrench. I've never heard of a customer having to do that, but at least you know what you got to do in an emergency situation. A lot of people will ask, I don't know if you can see my video here, but there's a nut up there on the inside of that rod, and there's a gap between the steel plate and that nut. That is normal, and what that does is that when the motor goes to pull the slide in, it lets the motor ramp up some before the nut actually engages and pulls the slide in. So it's just not immediately loaded. That's a common Facebook group question I see from people. Of course, you have an electric step, which you can do a step override, so the step will stay out when your door's being opened and closed when you're actually camping in an RV park or campground. And we'll talk more about the inside when we go in. Of course, the door is on an electric key fob as well, so for lock and unlock. And then you've got a exterior keypad here, which has functions as far as locking the coach and unlocking the coach. There's also an additional key. I had to look up the manual, but you can hit like an additional number after doing the code, and it'll actually lock or unlock storage bays as well. You have docking lights on the rear of the coach. That's your chrome accented light here. Another storage bay right behind the rear tire. Once again, it goes up underneath that rail to give you a deeper storage pocket, and then you can see that I've got the jacks down. On all the Renegade products, they want jacks downs before you put slides in or out. And in the very rear of the coach, right above, we've got an outdoor shower above this storage bay. And in the last bay, you've of course got more storage, and then your central vac system, which is an option that can be ordered. On the rear cap of the Verona LE, it's a 2-piece fiberglass. Odds are, if you ever got rear-ended, you're going to bust or crack this bottom piece, and so that makes for a lot easier replacement and lower cost. That tailpipe sticking out the back is not for your main engine. That is what it exhausts for the generator. That way when you run your generator, it's not blowing up underneath your slides. Slides are pretty tight, but they're still not airtight. I mean, they got to be able to move. 20,000 pound hitch on the M2 chassis. And then down here you've got your 7-way plug for your trailer, and then you've got your plug for your camera as well. So you've got a camera up on the back of the coach for backup. See it way up there. But it's if you're pulling like a big double stack car trailer and you had a camera on the back of that trailer, you can plug in, and in the dash you can switch that feed to pull from the other camera versus the camera that's mounted on the back of the coach. All LED lighting. You can see all down through here. We'll go into our rear bay here on the utility side of the coach, and this is where you've got your 50 amp shore cord. On 50 amp cord, you basically got two 110 lines coming in. Each of those lines is 50 amps, so really it's a 100 amp service because you're splitting that, right? That one line's feeding one half of the coach, and the other line's feeding the other half of the coach. If you get more electrical questions, I can explain. There's a lot you could talk. I mean, I could do a whole video just on electrical. Maybe I should, but I say this stuff all the time, and then I haven't got around to doing it yet. But so you got your 50 amp coming into your coach, and then you do have an automatic transfer switch with surge protection. Customers a lot of times will ask me, well, do I need to use surge guard or something? Like the Progressive Industries system at the post. It really depends. If you're full-time, to me it's more about how, like, if you're a weekend warrior, maybe it's not as important. But if you, let's say you're full-time and you don't want to ever risk not having electricity in your coach because that's where you live or you do a lot of really long trips, in theory, if that surge guard gets blown, it does protect the coach, but then you don't have a way to get power to the coach without replacing that. So you can be without electricity for a few days, depending on how long it takes to get it into a shop and get it replaced. Whereas if you had an additional unit at a post, you blow that, well, now you can still plug your cord into that post, and now this is what's protecting the coach. So different food for thought there, and it's like, do you want to, it's really personal preference. Do you want a redundant system? So keep in mind, when I talk about with 50 amp service, you've got two 110 lines coming in. So Renegade does supply a 50 amp to a 30 amp, right? Well, you can look at this plug. You've got two commons that are coming in, and you've only got one common that's coming in when you go to 30 amps. So you're dropping one of those 110 lines. So you're only feeding half the coach electricity when you do that, which is fine. You're going to lose an HVAC unit. And typically when you use your dog bone to drop down, the key components are where you're going to get power. So your refrigerator, charging circuits, maybe a few outlets and an air conditioner, just so you have some use of the coach but not full capability when you use that drop down. And then in the electrical panel inside, when you do a drop down, it only sees one 110 line coming in, but the coach has no way to know or measure, is it a 15 amp circuit, is it a 20 amp circuit, is it a 30 amp circuit? So it's automatically going to default and think it's a 15 amp circuit. So if you are truly on a 30 amp circuit, you can manually change that inside the coach and say, look, I know you default it's a 15 amp, but I'm actually on a 30. Coach is equipped with an 8,000 watt Onan generator. It's diesel generator. Initial service is going to be due at about 50 hours, and then every 150 hours after that. The key to the generators is to run them every month and loaded. The more you run your generator, they get fuel moving through it. Keep it from gumming up. The better and more reliable your generator is going to be. Of course, your dock light on the other side. So the rear bedroom slide and your utility side slide for the living room are on what's called a Swintech system. That's this rail here, and then there's a rail up top, and then of course there's motors in here that spin and push that slide in and out. So there's a motor on this side of the slide, and there's a motor on the other side of the slide, which are electric motors. What you got to keep in mind is, motors spin based on how much voltage they get. So in theory, both motors should be getting about the exact same voltage, but it could be off by a very small percentage due to the length of wire between one motor and the other. And so one motor could be turning 1 or 2 more clicks each cycle than what the other motor is. So if you don't run your slides, this is where people have complaints and issues, is they get out of sync. Well, all you got to do is, when you're using your Swintech slides, is to run them all the way in and hold the button down until it stops itself, because those motors are designed that when they see a voltage peak, once they see a voltage peak due to resistance, they automatically shut off. So that works whether you're pulling the slide in or you're pushing the slide out. So do not think you need to let go of the button early, when you think the slide is close to where it needs to be. Let it go all the way and let the motors kick off when they're done. Same thing with the living room slider and any slide mechanism that uses Swintech. Another big issues with Swintech slides and the people that complain is some of the manufacturers were using the Swintech slide system on slides that just were not intended for. They're too big and too heavy, too wide, too long. And Swintech, those systems are not designed for that. They're designed for smaller slides, and it's an awesome system. It just has to be used in the right scenario. So no, you can tell by looking at this living room slide here, and of course this bedroom slide. They're much smaller slides. They don't stick out near as far as that big slide on the other side of the coach that's on a rack and pinion. I'm sitting here right beside the control bay or wet bay for the coach. This does have a thermostat in it. The Aqua-Hot can heat it. The big tailpipe on the left down here is your main exhaust pipe for the main diesel engine, and then the other pipe on the right is for your Aqua-Hot system. Aqua-Hot is also, it's got a diesel burner in it, so you want to run that every month. Run it for half an hour, summer or winter. You just want to exercise that. It's very important to get your Aqua-Hot systems maintenance every year. And don't get it maintenance at the end of the season and put it in storage. That's not going to do you a lot of good. Wait till you get ready to go on your big trip, or you're going to go out for the whole summer and fall. Get it serviced right before you start that season, so that you have a nice fresh service and filters. The nozzles have been clean. No diesel's been sitting in there and gumming up. That's a big mistake a lot of people make. It is what it is, and our dealership's going to become an authorized service center for Aqua-Hot. We're in the process of that right now, but there is limited servicing centers out there for Aqua-Hot, and really not everybody needs to be working on Aqua-Hot. You need to know what you're doing. If you're getting your Aqua-Hot serviced, I would ask that, are you an authorized service center or an authorized service rep? And then another thing to keep in mind as far as the authorized service centers is, even though the dealership sent one person to go get trained, now the whole dealership is a service center. Well, I would ask, is the person that's doing the work on my coach the one that was trained, or are they the actual authorized representative, or not just somebody that's just doing the best they can? So you want to make sure whoever's touching your Aqua-Hot system is somebody with the proper education. You've got your whole house water filter in here. Try not to fall over. So you got your whole house water filter in here. Of course, you've got your power retract hose reel. You got a spigot, which also acts as a low point drain. The black wrench is for your water filter. You have another low point drain to the right here. This blue line is just a coiled water hose. It's fancy, right? Or bougie, use big words. So of course, you've got your dump for your black tank and your gray tank dump, and then of course your black tank wash. So you can rinse out your black tank. The toilets on these are macerators, so everything that's going into the black tank is ground down. So the poop pyramid isn't near the problem. It's your typical toilet that just drops all your matter into one tank. Of course, your tank fill and city water switch, very simple. You flip it to tank fill or you flip it to city water. Another recommendation I always tell people is, don't leave pressurized water, so either a water hose pressure or a water pump pressure on while you're not at your coach. I mean, if you're not there and a line breaks somewhere, it's going to dump all 150 gallons of your freshwater tank into wherever. Or same thing with a water hose at a spigot. I mean, it's just going to continually dump water into your coach with nothing to stop it. So I wouldn't leave, you know, pressurized water on while you're gone. Of course, you've got your stinky slinky here, which is just a, you know, basic line for dumping your tanks, and then your water hose. It's on an electric reel. So this pulls out. You can hook up your water, and then you hit your little switch, and it pulls it in. Trying to think, oh, your black tank, before I forget. So your gray and your black tank are up here, and what's really cool about the black and gray tanks on the Renegades is they're actually enclosed inside of boxes. So when you're in colder climates or even road debris, those tanks are very well protected and easier to keep warm when you need to in the cold, you know, cold weather. We just had that cold snap that everybody just experienced during Christmas time and a little bit before. You know, even people in Florida were seeing close to 20 degrees. But those black tanks, so for durability purposes, the pipe that feeds the top of that black tank is not glued. It's not a sealed fitting. It's slip seated. And so why that's important is you do not want to overfill your black tank, because once it hits to that slip seated seal, it will overflow into your bay. So 60-something% on your black tank, you need to dump. Here you can see that black tank, and then what you've got down here. Boy, I'm sitting here next to this window and it's hot coming through that glass. But so you've got the fitting here where you connect your hose, and then you don't want to unscrew that cap first, because if there's any residue in the pipe, if anybody with RV experience knows, it's almost impossible to not keep some form of residue. I think I saw some dude on YouTube called the poop drizzle. So he said he coined the phrase, but I'm sure someone else has said it before. But you've got the pipe there where you hook up your hose, and then you would run it across, and then you would drop it through the fitting here, and then, you know, down to wherever your drain is. One of the things to note is both your gray and your black tank have these actuator valves that are cable driven, and so it's kind of a maintenance item. And something I've commonly heard from people is, you know, there's a set screw in here, and this, of course, cable goes in there. And cables, just like a bicycle, if you're a bicyclist, you know, cables stretch, and now your shifters don't shift exactly like they should or right on point. So you may, over time, this gate won't push all the way closed because this cable stretches some. So all you gotta do is pull that set screw back a little bit, and then pull the cable back a little bit, set your screw back down, and then that way when you go to push your T-handle in, it's actually pushing your gate all the way closed. So that's just a common thing I've seen on a few coaches. I mean, I've done it at least for 2 customers at least, where I've gone in there and adjusted that for them, whether it be at a campsite or here at the dealership. Here's your other tank. You can see that gate down there. Then you've got another storage bay here on the utilities side. It does have your Victron energy charger and inverter in it. And then it looks like you've also got your, I would assume, charge controller. They just recently started using the Victron stuff. Wi-Fi, oh, it's just a Wi-Fi access point for the inverter. And in the last bay, what we have up here is we've got our batteries. We got 2 8D AGMs, which is your house batteries, and then you've got your chassis batteries on the left. You've got a up here at the top, you do have an air fitting, which is where you hook up your air hose, and that allows you to use the chassis compressor and air tanks to air up tires or small inflatables. Not going to run a power tool very efficiently. And then on the over here, we've got our other straddled 50-gallon tank, our DEF fill. The biggest thing on the DEF is just to make sure you keep it clean and don't let crystals build up around it that can cause issues if they get down in the tank and clog up the doser. And then you also have, my mouth's getting dry, I'm sorry. So then you also have your block heater where you can plug in a 110 15 amp cord. Keep, you know, but you'd have to be in like low single digits to really need to use that. Engines today do a pretty good job of starting up in colder weather, especially since they've got grid heaters. All right, as we go in the coach here, nice feature is your steps are cut underneath. Great for shoe storage, so you're not tracking stuff in and out of your coach. They do make some really neat scrub rugs, things that you can put on your steps that help, deter sand and whatnot. Just ask me, I'll give you an idea what I'm talking about. Down here you can see your contact point on the door. That's what tells the door that it's closed or open, so the step knows to come in or out. As you come in the coach here, we've got our battery disconnect switch, our step entry override, so your step's not going in and out as you open and close the door. And then of course your e-start. E-start ties your two groups of batteries together, so the chassis batteries and then your coach batteries. So let's say you've drained your coach batteries by accident. You can hit the e-start, it'll tie the two groups of batteries together, and then you can now start your generator. Or vice versa, you can start the main diesel engine if you've drained your chassis batteries, but your coach batteries still have a charge. Of course, standard fire extinguisher per the old fire marshal. This is one of your, you still have a multiplex wiring system. These touch panels, if they're lit up, that tells you that it's got a 12 volt hardwire, but these are just remote. So the main control units, which I'll show you, basically this just sends a signal to that control unit and telling it to perform that function. So ceiling light, floor lights, storage base, awning, interior master on and off, porch, extend your awning and retract your awning. Here's the main display in the coach. So what I was talking about is, this is what controls all your 12 volt system in the coach. So your water pump shows your black, gray, and freshwater levels, tank heaters, generator start stop, generator hours, auto generator start function, your house voltage, chassis voltage. Keep in mind on voltage, if there's stuff that's drawing electricity on the coach, voltage is going to vary. That just gives you kind of a rough idea. And then, of course, what your front and rear temperatures, interior are, and then Aqua-Hot electric on, Aqua-Hot burner off, on or off, and engine preheat, which allows coolant to cycle between the main chassis engine and the coach itself, the Aqua-Hot unit. So you can use engine preheat one of two ways. You're driving down the road, you can use that to heat the water in the Aqua-Hot system, the glycol. You're heating the glycol from the main engine to be able to heat the coach as far as driving interior temperature, or if you're parked and it's super cold, you can use the glycol from the Aqua-Hot system to heat the engine so that it's easier to start. So it works both ways. And then Aqua-Hot electric and Aqua-Hot burner. Obviously it's good to have, if you have you're hooked up to 50 amp shore, it's good to use Aqua-Hot electric and the Aqua-Hot burner because it'll automatically stay on electric. And the way to look at electric is it's kind of a preheat function. It keeps Aqua-Hot ready to go. Once the demand gets too high for the electric system, so you're trying to take a hot shower, wash some dishes, heat the coach, and the electric can't keep up because the electric's only going to go so far, then the burner will kick in to help offset the demand. So that, of course with the burner, it'll rip and roar. It'll do what you need it to do to keep the coach warm. Of course, master on and off, water pump, tank heaters, and all your other functions. So that's on your home screen. If you go to your light function, here's your lights, front lighting, rear lighting, exterior lighting, anything that's got an up and down arrow that is dimmable, so you can dim those lights. Of course, your electrical, the power source is a 50 amp shore auto. That's what I was talking about. If you use that dog bone to take it down to a 30 amp or even a 15 amp, the coach has no idea what the difference is, so it'll automatically default to 15 amp. Here is where you would change that to a 30 amp if you're truly using a 30 amp circuit. Of course, line 1 and line 2 coming in shows you the voltage for per those lines and how many amps are being driven on each line. Line 2 is showing 3 amps. I bet that's I bet that's the charger running to keep, to float charge the batteries. Of course, you got generate. They put multiple stuff on different screens, so another start stop the generator, AGS settings, of course, house and chassis voltage. Down here we actually have our auto gen start triggers and settings. So once so auto gen start, so the generator will automatically fire up on its own as long as you have it enabled based on triggers, which the triggers are low voltage or HVAC load. So and of course you have quiet hours. So say if you're in Yellowstone National Park, I've been there in my motorhome, you can't run a generator from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So you could set those quiet hours. Just make sure the actual time in the system is correct. And then so when the coach, so with the AGS on, low volt trigger on at 11.9 volts, and it sees that voltage, because voltage varies depending on load. If it sees that voltage hit for at least 30 seconds, it will then start the generator and charge the system, and then stop at 14.5, and then time at stop volts is 30 minutes. So once it gets to 14.5, it'll run for 30 minutes longer. Minimum run time is 30 minutes. You rarely want to start a generator and just shut it right back down. You want, if you're going to start one, let it run for a little bit. Of course, maximum run time, and then generators start retries. The one thing the generator does not know is how much fuel is in the tank, and it's simply a tube that goes into the tank that doesn't touch the bottom. It's about a quarter tank shy. So for whatever reason, you know, it's not sucking fuel. Generator doesn't know it. If it doesn't start after 4 tries, it'll quit trying. It's just not going to crank indefinitely and run your batteries down. Of course, HVAC load, if that triggers on, that's totally dependent on how you've got your HVAC system set. So if you've got air conditioner set to 68 degrees, it gets to 72, it kicks on and cools the coach back down and kicks the generator back off, as long as the generator runs for at least 30 minutes. In motion satellite, your bedroom fan, high and low, and then your bunk shade. And then of course all your slides, your rear slide, your front slides, and the other front slide, you know, extend, retract, extend, retract. You put a key in the ignition, all these functions will lock. You'll see that'll lock over right there. Of course, you can go over your awning, retract and extend your awning. And then, of course, your leveling system is on here as well. You can manually lower jacks if you need to, but 9 times out of 10, the auto level works great. Now, one thing I have seen with multiple leveling systems, not just the equalizer system that Renegade is using, is they bounce up and down the road, the little sensors lose contact, you go to hit auto level, coach does nothing. All you got to do is hit all retract, you'll hear the jack system pull tight again, hit auto level, coach will level, not a problem. Then your settings screen, mobile app, this is where you find your information to download your app, and here's your ID and your PIN number. I gotta go back this way. Network diagnostics, this will show you information about firmware and whatnot. Any faults. The outputs, this is really neat because it shows you what, you know, what's active on the coach as far as like the fan, inverter, just anything that's currently running at the time. So you can kind of, you know, do some self-diagnostics. Here's the other breakers as far as what's lit up green and active. Status of the air conditioners, vent and fan conditions. Of course, you got Aqua-Hot diagnostics as well. Cleaning mode does not wipe out the entire Fireplace system. That locks the screen so you can clean it and buttons aren't being pushed. This is where you would set your time, screen brightness. And that is everything. Oh, and then of course the auto dim mode function. But that's your whole Fireplace system. And then of course the app mirrors all these functions on your phone. This little black dot here is actually one of the temperature probes. So when you go to your thermostat, that front 71 degrees, that's where it's getting that temperature from. So we'll go back over here. Of course, this has got the fold out couch option. Of course, you've got cabinetry above your door here. All kinds of space up here above the couch and the dinette. We'll go down through here. But you got plenty of storage up top. Of course, you've got drawers underneath the dinette. Cushions in there to turn that into a bed or in there, but you can take those, leave them at home if you have no plan. I mean, that's a 3x5 bed, so that's for kids or other small people. Pets, I guess you put a pet bed there, a blanket down. I'm sure people have done that. To put the tables down, the easiest way to do that is to unlock them. From underneath, there's just a lever that you flip over. And then the key on these is not to push at the end of the table, but to push in the center of the table, and they will smoothly go up and down. You try to push on the end of the table, and it puts it in a bind, and it makes it a lot harder to do. All your windows, like I said, dual pane, they tilt out so they in light rains and stuff, they can still be used. You can see another control panel there for lights. We'll come back around and talk about the cab. That's a whole nother conversation. Of course, you know, the Cabover bunk, this is a Verona LE. It's the first one that we've seen. We've got the TV option up there. That bed slides out. This slides over. Those cushions flip over and makes a very large bed up there. That glass up there, you know, there's a shade that comes down to block that glass, and that is true automotive windshield grade glass. So as far as rocks and, you know, that kind of stuff, it's just as tough as your windshields are. You got a little cubby up there with an outlet, USB-C and USB-A. Fridge has got locks on it. Now this is a residential refrigerator, so it just runs on electric. You know, you've got a large battery bank. The new refrigerators, they are super efficient. You know, by not having that gas system in the rear like some of your RV refrigerators, you got a lot more storage space. And if you ever want some cool new fridge comes out, go buy it and put it in. It's a residential refrigerator. If you want to upgrade to the fridge that's got big TV on the front end of it, you know, we can do that. Or if you want to do it down the road, you know, if the TV gets some, you know, the refrigerator gets some age on it. It's a really neat factor. You know, another thing too, if you're out traveling and your fridge has issues in 5 or 6 years, it's a residential refrigerator. You're going to call the exact same repairman that comes to your house to work on your residential appliances. If it's a propane fridge, that requires a specialized certification that you will probably not be able to find. So most RV dealerships, including us, will not give you an estimate to repair it. It's to replace it. Convection microwave, so it does bake and microwave. Oh, they've changed this. I don't even know where the door is at. Oh, there it is. Of course, true induction cooktop. You do have to have special pots and pans on that. It's a magnetic deal, but those pots and pans are backwards compatible as far as gas or any other burner, but it does have to be a special pot and pan for induction cooking. Of course, you've got storage underneath here. You can look back in there. Soft close, dovetail construction. Renegade does supply you with paint for the exterior for touch up. There's your water filter for the whole house water filter. Extra little plugs for the cabinetry in case one pops out. And then they also provide this is what Renegade recommends for lubing your slides. Is the CRC Power Lube High Performance Lubricant. It is a dry silicone lubricant, so you know you don't want anything sticky on anything on the coach because then that attracts dirt. So this is definitely what you want to use. And you know, WD-40 makes a version 2, which is fine, but that is what Renegade uses. And that is the only lube you need for the whole coach as far as lubing all the slides and motor mechanisms and the steps and all that kind of stuff. It uses that dry lube. It's what I use on my motorhome. Another drawer for storage. You got a single basin sink. Window right behind the sink, and then you've got more storage. There's your subwoofer for your entertainment system. Of course, this unit was ordered with the electric fireplace. We can pull out those logs and replace it with the glass beads. Just depends on what option, how you want it set up, personal preference. There's your glass beads. In case you want to switch to that instead of the logs. Once again, 100% personal preference, but we can do that for you during delivery. Of course, your TV. There's a big storage compartment behind the TV. I mean, it's not a real easy storage compartment to get to, but for stuff that you don't need to get to a lot, you know, like manuals. If you want to hide a pistol safe or something back there, that's a good space to do that. Movies, magazines, books, you know, just whatever stuff you don't need to get to a whole bunch. But there is a decent amount of storage in behind the TV. Your Blu-ray player, your sound bar. Sound bar is one of the best things they ever did. I mean, because you know, technology. You know, I did sell the coaches at one time that had, you know, speakers throughout the whole coach and a receiver, and it was just tons of wiring, and then, you know, something over the years shorts out. It's hard to figure out where the heck the short's at. You know, soundbar, they're awesome. They come up with some really cool technology, and if something better comes out, you can just replace it. It's real easy. You know, if you've got a brand preference of something of that nature. This is our half bath. This is a 40 LRB, so we've got the rear bath with a half bath in the middle. The toilet is a true macerator toilet. So everything that goes through the toilet is ground down and sent to the black tank through a 3/4 inch hose. That way you don't get any odor in the coach. Much better system. Porcelain toilet, like sitting on your throne at home. You do have an eco flush and a normal flush, so basically number 1, number 2, and then an empty function. Of course, your cabinet, that's an actual real cabinet door. Sometimes those are faux on other coaches, because they've got componentry hidden behind them. Your medicine cabinet, which is deep. Everything's real solid, close, tight fit. Got additional cabinetry. I lied. They have put the, this is the first time I walked through this coach. We haven't had it very long, so I do apologize. They have put the circuit breakers in here. This is awesome. So there's your Victron Energy. So that little blue box I pointed out in the outside bay, because this is the first time I've seen a lot of this newer stuff. So that was the Bluetooth module and communication module for the inverter and charger to give you information. You can see we had an alarm go off for low voltage on 1220. It's been plugged in since then. You can clear those alarms. So pretty neat stuff. One thing that's really nice about the Renegades is you have 2 circuit breaker panels down here, and if you look, this one down here at the bottom has inverter. So you got the inverter right here. What that tells you is everything on this panel will run off the inverter. So take a look. Everything here can run off the inverter and the batteries. Microwave, the kitchen GFI, the TV, subwoofer, the sofa, all that stuff. Vacuum, bath GFI, all runs off the inverter. Washer runs off the inverter. Up here, this is the stuff that requires to be running a generator or hooked up to shore power, and that's going to be your front AC, your range, your rear AC, your Aqua-Hot, your dryer, and your fireplace. So a lot of the coach will run off an inverter. Unit is equipped with a stack washer and dryer. It is 2 separate units, so you've got your washer and your dryer. The dryer's up top, your washer's down at the bottom. I've not personally used a combination unit, but a lot of people tell me that the combination units do not dry very well. So that the dryer specifically does a much better job. And plus you can be washing and drying at the same time. Of course, you got you have a mini king, which is 4 inches shorter than a normal king. Underneath here, you have got your 150 gallons of freshwater storage. It's 2 75-gallon Rolo molded tanks. There's part of your Aqua-Hot system with the fans and the glycol to heat the coach. Your freshwater dump valve. That big T-handle down there. There's your water pump. That clear hose also can be used to pull coolant through the coach. All you got to do is turn the little valve, and then the water pump will pull from your coolant in a bucket versus pulling from the freshwater tanks. Central vac hose coming up through the floor there. There's your fitting on the outside to plug your hose into it. And another Aqua-Hot radiator right there you can see. Here in the bedroom, you've got soft close drawers down here to the left at the foot of the bed. You've got a wardrobe to the left, and then you got your center counter area with the window. Also serves as your emergency exit. There is no way to prop that open. I mean, you can open it, but there's no way to prop it open. It's designed to swing all the way out, so you can exit the RV in emergency. Of course, your TV that's mounted on top. Then you've got your double wardrobe over here. What's nice about it is that the center piece can come out and you can hang longer dresses and all your fancy attire, your wine dinners and whatnot. Big long 80s snowsuit maybe if you're into skiing. Down below you've got your entertainment center which has got your Blu-ray player and your connections for another satellite box. This does have in-motion satellite on it. You know, and any other gadgets, you know, if you're into Apple TV or whatever, that's your access there. Storage compartment over to the right. Large drawers below. Of course, you've got cabinetry up above the bed, windows on both sides. You've got your closing, the magnet back here is super strong. You got you know, a long door that closes off the rear bathroom. There is a snap up there, and you also have a fan on the ceiling for help moving and distributing air evenly throughout the coach. Those do come in handy. Then your shower. The shower wand is adjustable up and down on that rod. There is a quick on and off if you're trying to conserve water in a boondocking scenario. Another thing Renegade started doing, it's been several years now, it's hard to keep track, but they put that little access panel, that chrome plate down there, and that just allows for an annual inspection. You know, I would add that to your annual inspection as far as servicing generators, servicing your diesel engine, you know, on your chassis, having the roof inspected, winterizing, servicing the Aqua-Hot. You know, I think I said inspecting the roof. You know, inspect underneath your shower. You know, I mean, this thing is a rolling hurricane or earthquake, you know, going down the road. So, you know, it's a good spot to look underneath there, make sure that all the fittings look good. You don't see any water or any dripping, you know, year to year. And if you have the service, it's a, you know, it's a place you can get to fix anything. Of course, you got cabinetry and a sink, a vanity back here as well that opens up. If I can find my, there it is on the left hand side. So you've got storage there. You've got a vent fan back here just like you do in the other bathroom. Another macerator, toilet, full porcelain, you know, same flush controls. You've got a touch panel back here which has got the water pump in it. Same thing in the other bathroom. Ceiling, accent lights, fan up and down in speed. Storage up here above the toilet. And cabinet storage here off to the side. So tons of storage, tons of storage. Here's looking back through the coach. And then we'll work our way back to the front and I'll finish talking about, you know, sitting in the cab. The seats up here do swivel around. You know, to swivel the seats, they do need to be set forward, you know, slid forward, aft forward, and then, you know, pull the lever to swivel and then swivel the seats around and then slide them back. If you try to slide the seats while they're back, obviously the seat will hit the cab cowl here or this trim piece. So you got to go forward to get past this and then swivel the seat around. I think that's the biggest trouble people have, you know, with the chairs and adjustments. And it's not the easiest thing in the world. We also upgrade a lot of seats for people because not necessarily, like I have a motorhome, I don't swivel my seats in the front very often. So we have customers that will upgrade to a different seat that may be a little bit bigger with a different base and more functions. And they lose a swivel function, but it doesn't seem to bother a lot of people. The Seats Inc. Pinnacle seats is a seat that we typically replace for customers, and definitely an awesome upgrade if you choose to go that route. You've got air horn up here in the cab, of course your steering wheel, city horn in the center. You have an equalizer control panel down there, but you do have it in the Fireplace system as well. That's your power window over there to the left on the door handle. Of course, you got a manual lock there. You do have electronic key fob lock for the doors that's on your keys. You know, you've got your cigarette 12 volt here, a power 12 volt, the Fusion radio, you know, your Garmin GPS, your 3.5 jack, and a USB behind this plug. This is where you switch your camera in the rear from either the camera that's on the back of the motorhome or, you know, feed into a trailer. Of course, your TPS system, which gives you tire temperature and pressure. Your spot lamp, which that's what's underneath your. Let me get this, make sure I don't tell you the wrong thing. Yeah, spot lamp is the lamp that's underneath of the hood, you know, when you're looking at the engine, checking fluids and stuff of that nature. And then your option light is for your docking lights, so when you're backing into a site. Locking differential. Locking differential is only meant to be used at low speeds. If you have lack of traction, you do not want to use locking diff at high speeds or in a very tight turn, because a lot of people don't realize that when you turn a vehicle, your rear tires are actually turning at different speeds in the rear, and you don't want to. When you lock them together, they're turning at the same speed. So that, it's for basic, getting out of a slick spot, ice, snow, mud, dirt, if you have to. Of course, you can silence your lane alert, your regen. The regen, all diesel engines manufactured to January 1st, 2007 has a diesel particulate filter. In high idle application like school buses and aerial trucks that work on power lines, the engine's idle and they can't regen themselves, because for a vehicle to regen, it has to be moving 20 miles an hour down the interstate and for a period of time. Well, so standard, we have to supply, or Freightliner International, whoever has to supply a manual regen. So you click a button, it idles it up and it regens, which basically induces fuel into the exhaust system and burns it out and burns particulate into ash. Well, you'll never need that, more than likely. You're in a motorhome, you're driving down the highway, this thing is heavy. Nothing cleans out that particulate filter better than working the engine hard going down the highway. Motorhomes are always heavy, which means the motor is burning efficiently all the time. Nothing worse on a diesel engine, whether it be the generator or the chassis engine, than being run but not working hard. So, with anything diesel, cutting down idle time and low loads, and only using a diesel engine for high loads and demand and actually working is the best. And if people have questions, just let me know. I've been in the trucking industry for 16 years, so I can talk a lot about kind of the different mission systems and even some of the mission systems that are coming. It's going to be interesting to see where we go in the next, 15, 20 years. This is, of course, your collision mitigation system controls, just to change some settings and loudness and volume, and nothing you really need to do in there, but it does give you some features that you can adjust. This is your electric brake for the rear of the coach to adjust sensitivity, so you're not dragging or being pushed by your trailer that you're towing, for those that do that. Window up and down control as well here. Your driver's side, passenger side, heated mirrors, on the flat glass of your mirrors, door locks. And then you've got electronic shifter, which it's an Allison 3000 series transmission. Of course, fog lamps, engine brake on and off, and then engine brake high and low. That is required by law because there's our engine brake restricted zones. One thing that's always confusing to people is so the Verona and the Verona LE are on a Freightliner M2 chassis. The standard performance, that transmission comes standard in this product, for, Verona LE comes standard in performance mode, which means that it shifts 200 RPM later to allow the RPM to build just a little bit more, hold for the shift, which creates a little bit more horsepower. Versus if you hit the mode button on a Verona and a Verona LE, puts it into economy mode, which it'll say mode in the display, and that means it's shifting 200 RPM earlier. In theory, in the truck world, we always tell people that the faster you can get to top gear, the more fuel you'll save. I had a friend of mine deliver. He's a retiree from the school system locally, maintenance head of maintenance for the school bus, and he drives these RVs. He delivers them for me all over the country, and he was driving to Texas to deliver one and. Outside of San Antonio or something like that. But I said drive a full tank in economy, and this was a Verona. Full tank economy, full tank performance, and he came up with like a difference of 0.2 on the mile per gallon. Now that's a pretty flat stretch through there, but that still gives you kind of a point of reference. Now the Valencia, just so there's no confusion, Valencia is standard in economy mode, and when you put it in the mode, it goes to performance, and that's where a lot of the confusion is on the Facebook groups, because I'll say people will argue that back and forth, and that is 100% the truth. I've had in my Allison rep pull transmission parameters for me per serial numbers, and that is 100% correct. Up here in the gauge cluster, all your basic stuff, your air levels, of course your fuel level, depth level, oil pressure and water temperatures. The biggest thing to know, there's a wait to start lamp, and that basically usually comes on if you're in colder climates. Wait for that light to go off. It's heating up the air intake so that the engine can start easier. As far as engine lights, if you have a yellow engine light of any nature, that's precautionary. Do you, or minor engine fault or emissions fault? Do you hear, feel, or see anything different? If you don't, I'd keep trucking. I mean, there's over 2,000 operations per second going on in the ECM. The engine control module. So yeah, I mean, there's just low voltage, temperature, weather, moisture. A lot of things can spike a fault, and it can be temporary. Faults have the ability to self-heal. We're not in the old days of when a light comes on, you run straight to a dealership. I mean, if you don't hear, feel, or see anything different, and it's yellow, I mean, I'd give it give it a day or two of driving on your trip to see if it doesn't go away. If it's not causing any issues and you're on a long trip, wait till you get back, get it addressed. If you get and a lot of times too, a lot of you guys are using some of the diagnostic tools where you can get like a fault code and get kind of a general idea of what it has to relate to. But I mean, I was in Florida on a trip, and I had a NOx sensor go out on me on my motorhome, and I mean, I made it all the way home over a course of a couple of days, because it gave me a 10-start regen deal, 10 starts before it would derate because it was an emissions related fault. So I still had time to get it home and get it in service, and not have to pause my trip during that time. Now, if you get any kind of red engine light or red light in general, that is a catastrophic fault code or a catastrophic issue. So any codes associated to a red light are catastrophic engine faults that can cause major damage. That is a get off the highway and stop it as soon as possible, as long as it's safe. I mean, don't stop in the middle of 4 lanes of traffic, but move over as fast as you can in the emergency lane or get off at the next exit, just depending on where you're at. I can talk all day about lights and kind of what to do. Once again, if you have a light or something of that nature, feel free to reach out to me or call me. There's lots of information out there. It is nice. I do recommend a lot of the diagnostic dongles that you can put onto your, onto the J19 port to be able to get some basic information, just so you kind of have an idea of what you're dealing with on a trip. And they're pretty handy. I mean, there's some pretty cool stuff. I'm going to go back over here. Of course, this is your GPS unit, navigation, head unit radio. I did learn at the Tennessee rally, Renegade rally, down at the Ridge, that if you go through Garmin, and I can get that information for you guys, but you can actually order additional displays and mount them so that you can split up functions of the screen other places. The only thing that you can't move out of here without running data cabling is the camera. So if you want to move your camera function like up here, like a lot of people will do, almost like a rear view mirror, you actually got to run cabling through the dash and up and around to feed that camera feed. But you could technically have your backup camera here full time and run navigation up here at the top without having, only thing you have to run is 12 volt, and that'd be a lot easier. But those are things I can help with if you have questions or need anything. Left of the steering wheel, you've got increase, decrease down there at the bottom. That's for your gauge cluster brightness, headlights, marker lights. Of course, cruise control at the top on, and then set codes, resume, and excel. And then your typical blinker situation like any vehicle, and then your washer fluid for the windshield, and then the speed of your windshield wipers. Pretty basic stuff. I mean, it's, the light stuff can be a little overwhelming. Luckily, all the manufacturers now include some stickers up on the visors that tell you what some of the common lights are. I remember I was working in the trucking industry in 2007, and when they introduced this light, it's a little puff of smoke and a thermometer, I mean, nobody knew what that was. I mean, truck drivers get no training. They just, here's a key, here's a load, we'll hit the road. Well, we had, every day almost, it felt like people stopping in. I got an engine light on. Can you please diagnose my rig? Well, we go look at it, and it's like, there's nothing wrong with your truck. It's an engine. It's a light that's just telling you, hey, by the way, your vehicle was in regen while you were driving down the road. Hot exhaust temperatures. Your exhaust temperature or your metal tip out there could be very hot. Keep flammables and people away, dry grass, or things that could catch on fire. So it's just a warning thing. So like if you're driving your motorhome down the road and it goes into an automatic regen and you pull off to get fuel or whatever, and that light pops on, it's just telling you that tip's extremely hot. I mean, those exceeds 1,000 degrees down there. So those tips are just designed to disperse heat, and you can kind of smell it sometimes too, like that baking smell if it does go into a regen while you're driving. But there, that information in the description of some of the regen stuff is right here. that's all I got for the cam. Once again, my name is Kyle Culverline. I'm a truck and RV sales consultant at Bluegrass International here in Georgetown, Kentucky. We have several units in stock right now. Of course, that could change, so just call, text me, see what I've got. People are welcome to stop by for a test drive. We are no pressure atmosphere. Nobody here is going to pressure you. We're all about taking care of the customer, doing what's right, and amazingly, it works out at the end of the day. Somehow it works out for us, and even if we don't sell one customer an RV, they bring it back for service, and our guys in the shop do a fantastic job. So whatever we can do to help, we're here to do that. And once again, I appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever social platform you're on, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and whatever else. I do appreciate comments and feedback, and I put a lot of work into these videos and try to be super informative. And until I make another video, see you guys soon.